Okay, so this video is in part to discuss some discoveries or blatant manipulation of code that have been made by others that I found through Reddit or YouTube, and then a few more things I found combing through the source files myself again. But it's also in part to defend my honor and reputation on this platform, because I got a lot of comments in the last video explaining how the way I approached making the video was very much not to your guys' taste, or a lot of yours anyway, and that had a lot to do with me trying to skirt the DMCA strike that I figured was coming onto the video if I even mentioned supporting downloading the code. But you know what? That was my test run for avoiding DMCA strikes. This is going to be my test run for the opposite. Because let's make a few things clear. When I said the code shouldn't be in public hands, I meant that it's literally an accident. It didn't happen on purpose, rather a rogue 4J Studios employee released it. But absolutely do I agree with the sentiment that after 10 years of not updating it at all, or making it available to people, the public, the players of the game, the people who love this version of the game and are keeping it alive, most definitely deserve to have the code in their hands, because Lord knows they would do a lot with it, like they already have, and like you'll be seeing even more of as this video goes on. I mean, Christ, they've even managed to find the legacy farlands already. More on that in a little bit, but point being, this code is way better off in the public's hands, the public of the people who enjoy playing this version of the game, because let's be honest, clearly Mojang and Microsoft don't give a flying fuck about this version until it got released and they've all started freaking out and striking down every video that shows how to get to it. And I got a little tentative with just talking about mentioning getting it, but you know what? It's available. It's somewhere on the internet. I'm not going to direct anybody anywhere, and I still agree with my previous sentiment that if you are concerned with what you're doing, just, you know, keep to the laws and you'll be fine. But if you really want to get it, it's available on the internet. That's how the internet works. There is no reverse button now that it's out. Now, I hope that makes up for the lackluster attempt I made in the previous video I made on this topic to legally cover my ass, but if it hasn't, maybe the information I'm going to share with you next will, because this stuff is pretty interesting. Once again, in the background, the trial tutorial world is playing, but some fun discoveries with regards to that were found. But before I get straight into that, there were a few complaints that the walking in the background of the video that I made previously on this topic was way too loud. So I apologize, I hear you. I'm going to keep it at a nice low temperament volume so that everybody can clearly and concisely hear what I'm having to say toward the... So with regards to the trial tutorial world, it was brought to my attention that this was not, in fact, the first time that this world has been seen, and it wasn't just the Guardian article that I mentioned in the previous video that I made on this topic, but rather somebody recognized it from the Xbox 360 demo cartridge pamphlet. And this guy very kindly went through all the effort to go onto my Discord server, which, by the way, the link is in the description if you want to, you know, chat to people of a similar mind of old video games and StuartisUnoriginal and stuff. It's there if you want to join, and sent these pictures of the pamphlet, which have the iconic Trial Tutorial World windmill image, which at this point to me is fucking iconic, showing this same screenshot. And according to some other people in the comments, it also appeared on Xbox 360 Edition's arcade store when you were going to buy Minecraft and play it. He also sent this other screenshot, which I found it very funny that somebody on my Discord was like, that is an unnecessary amount of torches, and he's referring to this top image where there's this piglin surrounded by like seven torches or whatever, which is completely unnecessary in the nether where the lighting doesn't change much, but I guess they wanted to show the piglin very clearly, which they successfully did. That aside, I wanted to go through some stuff that the community has discovered together, and not just me combing through the files that are in the source code. So I'm sorry, I was scrolling down to the post I wanted to talk about, and I found this post by Alec Pies, which is found this splash screen to be very fitting, and it's PlayStation 4 Edition. It says, information wants to be free. And you know what? Amen. Your information, PlayStation 4 Edition, it wants to be free, and it is now. Here's the post that I want to find. Rebel Porpoise 72 found the Farlands in Legacy Edition. Specifically, they went all the way out to 12,550,733 blocks in the X direction, and located them. This is, as you can see here, in the Legacy Console Edition. It's a port, basically, for the Legacy Editions onto the PC with the leaked Legacy Edition source code. So, theoretically speaking, if you could, like Rebel Porpoise did here, remove the world border in the source code, you could theoretically have made your way to the Farlands in the legacy editions of the game, all the way out there, but apparently very difficult to do without getting rid of the world border because, according to Rebel Porpoise, 4J hard-coded it too much. According to them. In that vein of messing around with the source code, there have been people who have been backporting modern game items and blocks into the legacy source code's version of the game. For example, it's, I think, pretty well known now at this point that somebody did this with netherite armor and tools, which it looks a bit jarring because of the textures, obviously, but it is pretty cool that this guy spent 6 hours doing this. And you can tell that the entire community is ramping around all of this backporting so much because there's so much support and there's so many people talking about like some of the poorer quality backports. Even the comments on those are literally just people saying the texture could use a bit of work, but we need all the help we can get, as a community and stuff. So it is very, very wholesome, all the backporting as well. I think everybody's just really happy to have their hands on the source code of a version of the game that we love so much, and clearly Microsoft does not give a shit about anymore, decade plus later. Another person made the Aether mod functioning on PS3 Edition, and I'm not just talking about PS3 Edition like the source code leaked PS3 Edition, but I'm sure that's how they started the entire endeavor, using the source code and then modding the Aether into it. However, they have done this on an actual PlayStation 3. The video that you're watching right now is running on a PlayStation 3 Slim, which that part is insanely impressive. Not just getting it to run on your PC, but then porting it so that it works on an actual PlayStation. I don't know how the flying fuck that works, and the person doesn't seem to make much reference to how it works. I assume because they're, afraid of providing proprietary code in the description and stuff. Coward, I would never do that. Anyway, then lastly, I of course want to go through some of the files myself again to talk about some images and documents that I found recombing through the code. By the way, some people also got a bit upset when I was referring to going through the code and then not showing any code, but let me be abundantly clear. I needed to do a little bit of the code work when I was actually retrieving the trial tutorial world, which, by the way, took me fucking 2 hours, basically. It was an obscene amount of time I spent on it, and it was all because I just didn't understand how to do, like, hex code changing online and stuff. I don't know. It was an absolute nightmare. And I hope showing the, little time-lapse bit that I did there doesn't get me fucking DMCA struck. But I'm not providing anything, okay? Mojang, Microsoft, not providing anything. I'm not showing how to do it. I'm just saying it was hard. If anything, that's a deterrent. But anyway, so just so you are aware, this is me filtering by certain file types in the code, well, not source code, in the files that come with the source code that is on my computer, which I think is close enough. But anyway, but yeah, I found another pretty iconic, I think, screenshot of the trial tutorial world, which could have been used, in my opinion, just as easily as the Watermill one was, although that one obviously gained quite some heights in popularity because it's been used in the Xbox 360 demo pamphlet, and then obviously in a bunch of articles, and people have been seeing it on the Xbox Game Store and stuff like that. But this one, I think, does a good job of emulating that similar vibe, as well as this next one with Steve standing in front of the castle entrance of the trial tutorial world. But yeah, as an aside, it is really funny that people, like, I often will get comments. I've gotten them most recently in this previous video because of the nature of the video, but I often get comments with people going, how do you get the source code? And it's like, I understand that it's because I'm making a video on the topic that they think, I'm the best person to ask or whatever, but there have been so many comments that I've gotten over the years that are just perfectly phrased and spelt and ready to go into the Google search bar, and they would instantly get their answer, but instead they put it on a Minecraft YouTuber's comment section, which is guaranteed to be way less instant than Google. And a lot of people seem to still think that this is the best, this is the best method to get the information they need, which, yeah, I think is pretty funny. A very interesting icon, which I would love if anybody had any information on this, is the Minecraft broken icon.png, which I don't know if it was ported in from Java and wasn't used in the legacy versions, or if it was used somewhere in the legacy versions and I just don't remember it, because it's very strange and clearly designed like with a good amount of effort. There's also the background to the very famous image of Steve running, I think it's with a pickaxe, in this sort of plasticky texture looking background, but it's just the background. And it kind of gives like, I don't want to overuse the word liminal, but it does kind of give a liminal vibe just because you're expecting a certain piece of media to be there which is missing, and you're focusing on the background instead, which oftentimes creates a liminal feeling. It does say DLC background.png, so maybe it was used, you know, as the background for downloading DLC content on the Xbox 360, not sure. But any info on that too would be greatly appreciated. And then we have the weirdest fucking saving icons I have ever seen in my life. I don't know what, is that like supposed to be a rock with like googly eyes on it? And then there's this weird like, this weird PowerPoint style, like now saving, now loading text on them. And I just cannot for the life of me figure out why it would be in the Minecraft Legacy source code, because, you know, unless I'm wrong, this was not used in the game at all. I don't think. It would have been very strange if it was, I think. I also find it really funny how they recreated that image I was just talking about earlier, but in the city texture pack, I think it is, just keeping all the mobs where they are, but just like, it clearly looks like a more in-game screenshot, I guess, with Steve and the wolf plastered onto it, but they just plopped down all the, you know, the chicken and the creeper and the pig, etc., and just took the screenshot in game. So that brings us to the end of the images that I found, which I thought were really fun to go through. And there is one document I want to go through. There were a bunch of Excel documents, but all of them have tremendously mundane information in them, so trust me, you're not missing out on anything there. This one I thought was mildly interesting, which is just the updates that came to the game and the very serious issues that came along with it, and all the patching, I guess, that they had to do, if they had to do any, which is ordered here from seemingly very severe to just an exploit that could be made in game. And it includes the title updates, and if it crashes the game, what you can do, it seems like they have to write down the, you know, what exactly crashes the game. And I like how this one just ends with observe the crash. Jump into the portal that appears after Ender Dragon's death. Observe the crash. Yeah, and then of course there's stuff that doesn't just crash the game, but they still have to put it in here. And I thought it was a pretty interesting way, an interesting eye into how they, you know, sort of did the crash documentation. And not just crashes, but I guess exploits and game features that weren't necessarily meant to be in the game, and if they were going to get rid of them and stuff like that. That is it for this little additional installment, and I'm very appreciative of anyone who came along for re-watching me go through some of this information, even though some of you may have despised the way I approached it last time. But let's see if I get any DMCA issues whatsoever, so long as I don't show anybody how to get this very publicly available code, then I think I should be fine. But at least now, you all know my opinions, so if this video goes into the dark, you remember, you tell everyone that I was a supporter of the Legacy community all the way. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you all have a good one, and I will see you around.